What's Santa's favorite snack? Crisp Pringles. What's going on, YouTube? It's Tuesday at 10 a.m., which means we have 3 vendors that have reset. And for those of you who are new, they are weekly vendors, so they last one full week from Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time all the way to the next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before we jump into it, just a quick reminder, we are like 5 subscribers away from 25,000, so if you wouldn't mind, please hit the subscribe button and also like the video. Let's jump into it. Our first bad boy mamma jamma is Filer Ull. You find him in the Infinite Archive inside of Apocrypha. This is a free-to-play zone if you're unfamiliar, and he also has little gold that you can pick up off the table. Resets as well. So, Filer Ull is interesting because he sells mythic leads. Now, let's talk about this first mythic lead because it is an Ebon Dwarven Wolf lead from Craglorn. Now, this comes from a group delve, which you might think, well, it's relatively easy, and it is. But it's a little bit harder than normal because group delves inside of Craglorn are definitely a bit more annoying. Is it worth the 5,000 Archival Fortune investment? Definitely not. But if you do want to farm this bad boy, you actually can get access to the Ebon Dwarven mount, which looks pretty cool if I do say so myself. So, decent mythic to go after, but probably not one that you're going to purchase with your Archival Fortunes. Next is the Rune-Etched Colander, which also, ironically, comes from a delve. This gives you access to a music box. I don't know how the tunes go. I just imagine it's very, like, tentacle-y. Whatever you imagine that to be music, probably it. Probably Japanese music. Next up, we have a non-tradable style page, and this is the Encrates Behemoth Shoulder. So you can see here, this is how I model it on my shoulder. It's one of those ones that's only on one side, and you can see here that normally this retails for about $1 million gold on PC, definitely a little bit cheaper on console, but there's only a page of listings. So this is one that's not been able to have been gotten for a hot minute, but 15,000 Archival Fortunes is definitely an investment, and again, it's bound to you, so you're just saving money because you're not buying it from another player for, almost $1 million gold. It's one that you could in theory invest on. There are a lot of you guys that you just grind Archival Fortunes just to buy these, and it's definitely decent money for value. Next up is Betnik treasure maps, which are almost good. I mean, the sets that you get from there are decent. The problem is that you're not rolling for anything else. There's no cool antiquity leads that you're getting. There's no motif leads that you're getting. So unfortunately, Betnik treasure maps probably a skip. Now we have companion weapons. Now we've not had companion gear weapons for a long time, right? So this is hard because on one hand, getting weapons in the proper trait is one of the hardest things to do in the game. You just got to be lucky. And the High Isle event gave us tons of companion jewelry that we could buy and sell. Now we've got the weapons. The problem you can summarize it like this. You might be like, I need a shield, Jake. You get a shield. Guess what? It's got the healing trait. Oh, guess what? It's got a trait that's absolutely garbage. Crit chance. There's so many chances to get not only the wrong trait, but also the wrong weapon piece. But conversely, so switching the argument around here, when I went to go buy a companion shield and the right trait that I needed for my friend David, in the purple trait, there was one in the entirety of the game. I went to every single guild trader. There was one. So oftentimes, these are the rarest ones. So you're rolling for the rarest companion gear, but you're also rolling it in a way where there's a decent chance you get nothing that's good. So take that as you will. Next up, we have Daedric Worship and the Dark Elves and Tidefall's Cantos 1. Now, these are books that you can place in your house or read. Now, personally, Tidefall Cantos 1, the sequel is actually better, and you rarely see that in movies and pop culture these days. How often is the sequel better than the original? Tell me in the comments below if you have any examples. Then we have scripts. Now, these scripts you buy with Archival Fortunes. We're going to see some other ones later that you buy with gold. Now, some of these are pretty good. Taunt is pretty universally good. Fencer's Parry, Empower, Brittle. These are some pretty decent scripts. However, you have to be pretty desperate to buy these. And the reason that is very straightforward. It's that as you do content, you're going to be getting these for free. So spending Archival Fortunes to get them is a pretty hefty investment. So even though these are only a couple thousand and they're cheaper if you already have them, you got to think you could be saving yourself hours of time by getting a mythic lead. You could be saving yourself millions of gold by getting one of these bad boys. You could be converting it into tons of gold with treasure maps, depending on which treasure maps are in store. So I just generally don't like these. And then we finish off with our fragments. Now the fragments here this week are not anything super crazy. We have 20 archival riddles, which you're going to be getting just naturally from the Infinite Archive. Then we also have one of our rune box fragments. Now, these rune boxes are not very expensive. You can get these and buy and trade these from other players. So this is also one that I would say don't even need to invest in. And the first one that you get every day from public dungeons. So anytime you go fragment hunting in a public dungeon, which is where these drop from, the first one you get from every day has a higher chance to drop, a really high chance to drop. So it's better to actually just go and just get it. And Fragment of the Weld is actually very straightforward. It just comes from a group event boss inside of the West Weld public dungeon. So if you wanted to buy it, 1,000 Archival Fortunes is essentially no commitment at all, but it's also probably still not even worth it. Just go kill a group event boss in a public dungeon inside of West Weld. And next up, inside of the Scholarium, which is inside of Ivea, which is right over here if you've never been here before, in this little bad boy arena. So you can buy some scripts for gold. Now, the top is your grimoires. These are static items. These are always here. But the items down here, these rotate. So Cowardice is new this week. Mitigation, new this week. Restore Resources, etc., etc. Which of these would I get if I were you? I would buy them all, truthfully, if you don't have them, because that way you're guaranteed to have them. And truthfully, too, you can resell them if you get duplicates for 1,000 gold. It's just better to just have these. I'm actually a pretty decent fan of Restore Resources, but also Growing Impact as well as Mitigation and Cowardice are pretty helpful. Cowardice is probably the least helpful one, especially if you look at this from more from a PvP aspect than a PvE one. But yeah, I would just grab them all. Get access to all these bad boys. Next up, we have our final one, and that is our Imperial City weekly vendor. So this one is our Telvar vendor. And the reason why these ones are good, similar concepts, except they can have golden sets. We start with Beckoning Steel. Now, these are all PvP sets, so keep that in mind. You generate an aura that causes you and 11 other group members within that aura to take 10% less damage from projectiles. This persists through death. You can only be affected by one of these instances of Beckoning Steel, so you can't stack this infinitely. I think that this is fine. Maybe you could find some niche utilization for this. You're not going to buy this golded out for 100k Telvar. I think that this is probably like a 6.5 on our scale. It's not offensively bad, but it's just not good. Maybe at its best utilization, you could argue it's good, but it's just too finicky for me. This next set is a lot to unpack. There's a whole lot going on here. It's an Imperial City set. When you deal direct critical damage to an enemy while behind them, you inject leeching poison that deals 4,580 poison damage over 10 seconds to them and heals you for 100% of the damage done. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds per enemy. A lot of people think it's just per every 10 seconds, but you can do this multiple times on different enemies, and it scales off your weapon or spell damage. So this is a lot to unpack here. One, dealing critical damage to an enemy while behind once every 10 seconds is very specific. You have to be behind an enemy, so if you're trying to use this in Cyrodiil, you have to be very good at positioning yourself. And you heal, which you might think, okay, Jake, that's pretty good. I like to be healed. The problem is that if you're building a set combo where you're trying to kill people sneakily, generally you're not really worried about healing yourself as much as you are just about killing them more dead. So I don't think this set pairs well with its own self and what it's trying to do. It probably would have been better if it just dealt even more damage as opposed to healing you. But that being said, I don't think it's a bad set. I think this is probably like a 7.0. I think you could put this in a good set combination. I just think that you're going to be playing a very weird stealth build. There are ways that Nightblades obviously can crit very consistently, so from that aspect, I think it's not too bad. There's also nothing that says that you can't do a build where you're fighting them in a melee combat and you're trying to constantly get behind them, using like a stand blade, for example, and trying to hit them from behind while being up close on them. Maybe you can do that more consistently, especially if you're stunning them. So it's not bad. It's not above average. I think it's good. It's just very finicky. Next up, we have purchased. Off the bat, done. We need this lead. It is one of the most obnoxious leads to get because it is the torque of the Alien King. It only drops from Infinite Archive chests, and it knows when you want it. And if you're like me and you've gotten really good luck at getting other leads like Death Dealer's Feeds or other really annoying dungeon or trial leads, the game has said you've used all your luck. You're not going to get the torque of the Alien King. And I said, but I really want the torque of the Alien King. So it never gave it to me. So we are buying this lead, and it's done. It's just that simple. It is just that easy. I want this lead. It's a perfect PvP mythic. It's a one, you slap it on, you got to build for any PvP class in the game. I love this mythic. I don't even own it. And we immediately almost go 2 for 2 for leads that I may end up purchasing, because this one is also ridiculously annoying. And you would never know that just by me saying, this is from Mora's Whisper, which is a fantastic mythic. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it drops from watchlings inside Oblivion portals, in the Deadland zones. It also just drops from watchlings all over the place, right? You might think to yourself, oh, Jake, that's so simple. There's like 2 watchlings, it feels like, in that whole area. There's like none. And whenever it's like, oh, just kill rats, and get this lead, right? You have to kill like thousands of rats. So you're just in there endlessly trying to get this lead. Because this mythic is like one of the mythics that you want to own. Because you gain crit chance, but you also get an increased 10% chance to, 10% increased inspiration, alliance rank, alliance skill, and 15% monster kill experience based on how many books of Shaldor you have collected. So you can't use it on like a brand new character, but it's a mythic. You can't use it on a brand new character anyway. But if you have a lot of the Shaldor's books, you can use this to power level your CP very heavily. So I've wanted this mythic for a long time. I'm missing 2 leads, which makes me think I may or may not want to buy this one because I don't know what the odds of me getting the other one are. Because the other one, also stupid. It comes from a dungeon boss, so I may invest in it. We'll see. I'm going to think on that one. But Torque of the Alien King, insta purchase. Then we have Stormhaven treasure maps, which easiest skip so far. Then we have the rings of the sets that we've already discussed. Then we've got some other ones. We have Lifesteal, Mitigation, and Immobilizing Strike. Now, these are all pretty good. I'm a huge fan of Immobilizing Strike. However, is it worth Telvar? That's up to you. Telvar does have a gold value equivalent. Easier to calculate as well versus a lot of the other gobbledygook that we've covered so far, like Archival Fortunes. It's like, you can't even directly turn your Archival Fortunes to gold. You have to turn it into something that can then be sold to gold through a roll. So what that means is you take your little Archival Fortunes, you open a treasure map with it. Well, you can't sell the treasure map. You have to sell whatever the treasure map gives you. Or you buy the Archival Satchel, so then you might get a good provisioning thing that you could sell, or you might get nothing. At least here, you can take your Telvar, buy a single item, and then turn it to gold. So I usually tell people, for example, it's like 3 to 4 to 1 around that mark, and it's a little more if you play on PC. What that means is that 20,000 Telvar is, about 60 to 80,000 gold, which is not a lot, but it is to some people, especially if you don't have a lot of Telvar, because Telvar is a currency that people don't always have a lot of, but other people have tons of it just because they log in, you get Telvar rewards, or they do Mid-Year Mayhem where you just get random bits and bobs of Telvar. So that's up to you, whether or not you want to buy these. I would say probably not, just because it's, you probably don't want to be blowing your Telvar unless you farm it often, but when you convert it to gold, it's not super expensive. Next up, it's also difficult to put a price value on because Fragment of the Scrivener. So this actually just comes from a dungeon, but what it does is it comes from Scrivener's Hall, and it gives you access to a skill style, obviously. But the question is that would you rather spend 25,000 Telvar or would you rather farm a dungeon? And that's an interesting question because there are tons of PvPers out there who are like, ooh, I would love to get the skill style yellow annulment. That looks absolutely sick. I would love to get that. And, just saving myself from farming that worth 25,000 Telvar. And there are going to be people watching this video who are like, Jake, I have 2,000 Telvar. You think that I'm going to go farm 25k Telvar just to save myself from farming a dungeon? I think a lot of this just boils down to how much currency you already own. And then from there, how much of it do you want to invest? And that's what I think is the most important thing for any of these vendors is what currency do you have a lot of? There's somebody who watches my weekly videos every week. He may comment, and I'll pin it if they do. They have over 1 million archival fortunes. They just buy everything essentially that pops up because to them, they find farming the Infinite Archive more fun than any other content. There are people who farm Telvar because it's more fun. So for them, they probably rather farm Imperial City than anywhere else. Therefore, when these fragments come up, boom, purchased. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. Thank you for putting up with me recording these very quickly during the middle of the workday on lunch. So thank you again. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you have to do to enter. First one is leave a comment. As long as your comment is not removed by YouTube, you are good to be good. You're good to go. And you can leave as many as you want. The algorithm appreciates it. Second thing is just make sure you are subscribed/follow on Twitch and Twitter for additional entries. I know that a lot of people are like, Jake, why do you have to have a Twitter? I don't want it either. A lot of brands are like, whenever you do this, we want to make sure you accompany it with a tweet. And I'm like, I don't have a Twitter. So I had to make one. I'm sorry. And the third thing is look for hidden word be flashed up on the screen. Last month, the hidden word was stockings. What will it be this month? Well, look intently and find it. And thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.